Saturday morning started like most others. Brooke had left early to pick up groceries and grab coffee from the place she liked across town. The one with the tiny parking lot and the lavender syrup she swore made lattes feel like spring. I stayed home. I had told myself I was going to reorganize the guest room closet. That was the plan anyway, but I got distracted looking for a gift. Specifically, a gift we were supposed to give my parents. It was their 30th anniversary next weekend, and a while back, Brooke had ordered this set of matching coffee mugs with their wedding date etched on one side and a cute line from their vows on the other. She was the thoughtful one in our relationship, always planning ahead, always remembering the little stuff I forgot. She'd said she had already wrapped them and stored them somewhere safe. That somewhere safe was apparently her office drawer. Or at least that's what I assumed. So when I walked in there to look, I didn't think twice about opening things up. The drawer was kind of a mess. Typical Brooke organized chaos. Stickies stuck to stickies, pens that had run out of ink years ago, old receipts, birthday cards she never mailed. Under a pile of clipped coupons for yoga classes and a folder labeled W2's 2021, I found a small box. It was square, dark blue velvet, with a smooth finish that almost felt cold to the touch. I opened it without thinking. Inside was a bracelet, white gold, thin and elegant, the kind of piece you don't wear with a t-shirt. At first glance, I thought it was just something she'd forgotten about, maybe from a work gift or a birthday. But then I saw the engraving. Gavin. Always here. 3 words. 1 name. My stomach dropped. It wasn't a name I recognized. Not a cousin. Not a colleague. Not anyone she'd ever mentioned in passing. And Brooke mentioned everyone. The barista who complimented her earrings. The lady at Pilates who always wore neon sneakers. She was a talker, a sharer. But this name? Gavin? I'd never heard it come out of her mouth. The box had no wrapping. No receipt. No little jewelry bag. No card explaining who it was from or what it was for. It wasn't just unwrapped. It felt deliberately tucked away. Like it wasn't meant to be seen. Especially not by me. I stared at it for a long time. Just sat there, holding the box open like maybe the longer I looked at it, the more it would explain itself. Nothing. Eventually, I put the bracelet back in the drawer, closed it quietly, walked into the kitchen and just stood there for a while, not really doing anything. I wasn't sure what I was feeling, confusion mostly, a creeping sense of unease that I didn't want to name yet. When Brooke got back later, I brought it up casually. I figured I'd keep it light, no pressure, just a curious observation. "Hey," I said, leaning against the counter as she unloaded groceries. "I was looking in your desk for the mugs. Didn't find them, but I saw a bracelet in one of the drawers. The one with the name engraved?" She didn't miss a beat. "Oh yeah," she said, tossing a bunch of kale into the fridge. "That's not mine. It's for Tara. She asked me to hang onto it for her." I raised an eyebrow. "Tara, your friend, Tara?" "Yeah. Her brother ordered it for his girlfriend. Fiancé now, actually. But the delivery got messed up. Came to her place, but then he moved to Portland, and she forgot to send it with him. She's been meaning to mail it and just forgot. She gave it to me weeks ago and asked me to drop it off next time I go to UPS. I completely spaced." She gave a little laugh, shook her head. It was the kind of tone people use when they're explaining something boring, like a delayed Amazon package. Practiced. Casual. "Was that what you were looking for in there?" she added, almost as an afterthought. I shrugged. "Nah, I was looking for the mugs. Thought you said you'd already wrapped them." "Oh, yeah, I did. I thought I did. Might be in the hall closet." The whole conversation lasted maybe 40 seconds. She didn't look flustered. Didn't pause. She just kept putting away the groceries and moving on. But something about it didn't sit right with me. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way she never made eye contact. Maybe it was how fast she had that explanation ready, like she'd rehearsed it in her head. Or maybe it was how her story included just enough detail to sound real, but not enough to feel right. Like a TV character explaining why they missed work. My cousin's dog had a thing, and we had to drive to the vet and, you know the type, it was too smooth. And there were still questions. Why wasn't it in a bag? Why not just put it in her closet or on her nightstand? Why bury it under unrelated paperwork? And if it really was Tara's, why hadn't Tara mentioned it when we all went out 2 weekends ago? We'd talked about her brother. He came up when we were joking about how weird wedding vows can be. She never said a word about a gift. I didn't press it. What was I going to say? That bracelet made me feel like someone just yanked the floor out from under me. That wasn't the kind of conversation you had standing next to an open carton of eggs. So I let it go, at least on the outside. We ate lunch, watched TV, did the usual. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every time she laughed at something on the screen, every time she touched my arm, there was this tiny flicker of suspicion behind it, a doubt I couldn't shake. That night, after she went to bed, I walked back into her office. I opened the drawer again. The box was still there. I held it for a while, just sitting in her chair in the dark, staring at it, running my thumb along the engraving. Gavin, always here. It didn't feel like something a brother-in-law sends to his future sister-in-law. It felt personal. Int asterisk mate. Like a promise you only make when you're too close to walk away. I closed the box, put it back exactly where I found it. I didn't sleep much that night. It wasn't just the bracelet. It was the way it made me feel. That something or someone was in our life without me knowing. And that maybe Brooke wasn't the person I thought she was. Or maybe she was and I just didn't want to see it. I told myself I was overthinking. That people keep weird stuff in drawers all the time. That it wasn't evidence of anything. That it didn't mean what I thought it did. But deep down I knew better. The seed had been planted. The kind that doesn't scream but whispers. It doesn't demand attention. It just waits. Waits for you to notice the other little things that don't quite add up. And once that seed is there, once it starts to grow, it changes everything. You stop seeing your life as it is and start watching it. Like you're not really living in it, just observing from a distance. Looking for the cracks in the paint, the notes that feel out of key. I didn't know it yet, but that drawer, that tiny velvet box, was the beginning of the end. Not loud, not explosive, just quiet, precise, like a single loose thread. All I had to do was pull. After the bracelet, things didn't explode. They just shifted. It was like waking up in a house that looks exactly the same, but something's been moved an inch to the left. Everything familiar still surrounds you, but nothing feels quite right anymore. That's how it started, small. Not a storm, just a shift in the wind. At first, I told myself I was being paranoid. One out-of-place bracelet shouldn't unravel years of trust. But something had settled in the back of my mind, and once it was there, I couldn't unsee things. Like the way Brooke stopped asking about my day. She used to be relentless about it. I'd walk in the door and she'd immediately want to know if my boss was still using synergy in sentences, or if the guy in IT still brought his weird leftover curry to the office microwave. But after the bracelet, the questions stopped. Or they turned into statements. Bet you're tired. Long day, huh? Surface-level stuff. Then came the phone. It was always nearby, nothing unusual. But now it was locked constantly. Face down. She'd never cared before. She used to leave it on the couch in the kitchen, half dead from forgetting to charge it. But now it never left her side. I noticed the change the following Wednesday. We were eating dinner, homemade pizza, her favorite, and her phone buzzed. She didn't flinch, didn't glance. But she also didn't reach for it. She just stared at it like it wasn't hers. Then, after a few seconds, flipped it over without reading the screen. It would have been subtle to anyone else. To me, it was a blaring siren. Later that night, I walked past the bathroom and the door was locked. Not just closed. I stood there for a minute, trying to remember the last time she'd actually locked it. Couldn't. She stayed in there for 20 minutes. When she came out, her face looked freshly rinsed, her hair tied up. Her phone was in her hand. She gave me a tired smile and kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong. She started leaving the house more, too. Errands, mostly. Or meeting clients. The kind of clients who were always rescheduling or running late. Brooke worked in design and photography, so her schedule was flexible. That was always the appeal of her job. She could edit photos from home, take meetings in coffee shops. But suddenly, she wasn't working from home at all. She was always on the go. I'd come home early some days and find the house empty. No notes, no messages. And when I'd text her, "Where are you?" she'd take forever to reply. Sometimes an hour. Sometimes not until she got back. "Sorry," she'd say. I had my phone on silent, except she never used to. She hated missing messages. Another thing, she started dressing up more. Not in a flashy way. Brooke had always had good taste. But now, she'd change outfits before going to Target. Hair curled. Perfume I didn't recognize. A light pink lipstick that left faint marks on her coffee mugs but disappeared before I got home. And it wasn't just perfume. I noticed things. Tiny things. Like when she hugged me hello and I smelled cologne I didn't own. Or when I hugged her from behind and she tensed. Just for a second, but enough. Then there were the clothes. She bought new lingerie, tags I found in the trash. Stuff she never wore around me. And once, while doing laundry, I found a shirt balled up in the bottom of the hamper. It smelled like sweat and hotel soap. I held it in my hands, turning it over. It wasn't anything I recognized. Not her usual. Just unfamiliar. Like it belonged in someone else's home. I didn't ask her about it. Couldn't. I wasn't ready to know. Instead, I started taking mental notes. Watching patterns. Building a quiet case in my own mind. Every time she left the house without a real reason, every time she came back quiet, distracted, I added it to the list. Not a real list, not yet, but something close. Something I could feel growing in the back of my brain, pulsing like a warning. We used to share a calendar app, color-coded events, reminders for bills, dinner with friends, even little date night labels. She turned it off one day, claimed the notifications were cluttering her day. But I noticed she stopped updating it altogether. Events disappeared. Places she used to log, meetings, photo shoots, quick trips, suddenly had no digital trail. Once, she told me she had a shoot downtown. I asked where. "It's just one of those pop-up things near 4th, she said. "Kinda last minute. Want me to drop you off?" I offered. No, it's all good," she said quickly. "I'm meeting the client early." That day, she left in a sundress. No camera bag. Another time I asked how her meeting went. She paused before answering. Just for a beat, enough to register. "Oh good. Short. We're doing a follow-up next week." She didn't say with who. We stopped laughing as much. Our conversations got shorter. She seemed distracted even when she was right in front of me. Like her mind was somewhere else. When we watched shows together, she'd scroll her phone instead of reacting to the plot. When I told a story, she'd smile at the wrong part, like she'd only caught the last few words. And the silence between us started to stretch. Not in a dramatic fight in the kitchen kind of way, just longer pauses. Longer glances that used to be int asterisk mate now felt like dead air. I'd say something like, "You want to go to the lake this weekend?" And she'd say, "Oh, maybe," and then go back to her phone. She started falling asleep earlier. Not in bed, not next to me. On the couch, face turned toward the cushions. I'd come in to say goodnight and she'd mumble, "I'm just resting my eyes," and then be gone for the night. Sometimes she'd wake up and go to bed hours later, after I was already asleep. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to say it out loud yet. I kept waiting for her to come clean. For some moment, an outburst, a breakdown, anything. But it never came. She was too calm, too in control. If she was falling apart, she was doing it somewhere else. Maybe with someone else. One night, I looked through our old photos. The ones from last year, vacations, birthdays, the cabin trip we took with her sister and her husband. She looked happy in those pictures. Or maybe I was just projecting. I studied her expressions, her posture, looking for signs that had always been there. I didn't find much. Just a woman smiling at the camera. Her hand in mine, eyes bright. And yet, it felt like a stranger. The scariest part wasn't that she might have been lying. It was that maybe she'd changed, and I hadn't even noticed. That the person sleeping next to me, eating dinner across from me, texting in silence beside me. Maybe she wasn't Brooke anymore. Or maybe she was, and this was just who she'd always been underneath. I remember thinking, maybe this is how people drift apart. Not in arguments or betrayal. Just silence. Gaps. Secrets that pile up like dirty laundry. One day you wake up and realize you don't recognize the smell of their shampoo anymore. I tried to be normal, to act like everything was fine. But every time she said, "Love you," something in me winced. Every time she kissed my cheek, it felt like habit, not feeling. The space between us had grown, and something was filling it. Friday night, she said it was a bachelorette party. She stood at the foot of the bed, holding up two different dresses like she couldn't decide between them. Both tighter than usual, both a little too polished for a night that was supposed to be full of drunk games and silly tiaras. I asked who the party was for. She said, "Maya, you don't know her. She's one of Elle's friends." Elle, her college roommate, lived in another city. Brooke hadn't mentioned her in months. "Didn't know you were still close with Elle," I said casually, watching her slip into the black dress, the one that hugged her hips. She didn't look at me. "We keep in touch." She curled her hair that night, wore earrings I'd never seen before. That same perfume again, something floral and faintly expensive. The scent lingered in the hallway long after she left. I stayed home, ordered takeout, turned on a movie I'd already seen, tried not to check the time every 5 minutes, tried not to imagine her in some bar, laughing louder than she had in weeks, telling some stranger the kind of stories she used to save for me. I told myself I trusted her. I told myself people deserve space. I told myself all the things you repeat when you're afraid the truth is darker than you want to admit. But somewhere around 10:30, I stopped pretending. I wasn't looking for anything. I was just scrolling, mindlessly flicking through my phone, the way you do when you don't want to think. A coworker had posted a story from downtown. A photo of a wine glass, dim lighting, captioned, "Finally out again." Nothing important, but something in the background caught my eye. A glass partition catching a reflection. I zoomed in. There, behind the girl in the foreground, was Brooke. At least I was pretty sure it was her. The dress matched. The earrings matched. Her hair, the soft waves she never wore unless she wanted to impress someone, matched. She wasn't surrounded by a group of women. There was no party hat, no scattered gifts or decor. She was sitting across from a man. Just the two of them. 2 glasses of wine. A candle on the table. His face wasn't fully visible. The angle only caught the back of his head, but her expression said more than I wanted it to. She was smiling. Not the polite kind. Not the fake. "I'm just here to be nice" kind. It was soft, full, real. The kind she used to give me across our dinner table, the one that said she wasn't just hearing me, she was feeling me. Her body language was open, unguarded. She was leaning forward slightly, hand resting under her chin, as if she was trying to memorize what he was saying. It wasn't a group event. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a date. I stared at that image for a long time. **T it. Zoomed in. Looked again. Part of me hoped I was wrong. That it was someone else who looked like her. That it was some old post being reshared. But the timestamp said it all. It had been posted 10 minutes earlier. My stomach twisted. I felt like I was sinking into the couch, like gravity had shifted and the world was off balance. I sat there in silence, holding my phone like it was radioactive. I didn't message her. I didn't call. What would I even say? "Hey, funny story. Your friend's bachelorette party looks a lot like a romantic dinner with a stranger?" No. I knew what I saw. It was confirmation, not just of what I feared, but of what I already knew deep down. The bracelet, the silence, the perfume, the clients. It all added up now. Not to a suspicion, not to a theory, to a fact. Brooke wasn't just pulling away. She was elsewhere, with someone else. And she had been for a while. I sat there until my food went cold. Until the movie ended. Until my chest stopped feeling like it was caving in. Then I opened our shared album from last summer, the one with our beach trip, and scrolled through the photos. I was trying to remember the last time she looked at me the way she looked in that reflection. I couldn't find it. She came home after midnight. I heard the key in the lock, the soft creak of the door. I was still sitting on the couch, lights off. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to look at her face and hear the lies ready on her tongue. She peeked into the living room. "Hey," she said lightly, like nothing was wrong. "Didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't," I said. My voice came out colder than I meant. Or maybe it was just honest for once. She paused. "Everything okay?" I nodded without looking at her. "Fine." There was a beat of silence. Then, "I'm gonna shower. You heading to bed soon?" "Probably." She hesitated, then turned away. I waited until I heard the bathroom door shut and the water running before I let myself breathe again. The next day, I didn't ask how the party was. And she didn't offer. The space between us felt wider than ever, like we were two actors still running a scene, long after the director had left the room. The lines were still memorized, the movements still automatic, but the meaning behind them was gone. Later that afternoon, while she was out getting groceries, I went back to the photo. I stared at the glass reflection again. Brooke's expression haunted me. It wasn't just the smile. It was how present she looked. Engaged. Alive. Like I'd been looking at a ghost for the past few months. And now here she was, animated again, but not for me. It made sense. Painfully, cruelly, it all made sense. She wasn't distracted because of work. She wasn't quiet because she was tired. She was giving her best self to someone else. Her full attention. Her laughter. Her time. I was getting the leftovers. And it hit me then, the full weight of it. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't some harmless friendship or emotional hiccup. This wasn't a slip. This was deliberate. She had lied, looked me in the eyes and fabricated an entire evening out of thin air. Not to protect me, not to spare my feelings, but to buy herself time, to build a space where I didn't exist. And she did it so calmly, so easily, that I wondered how many times she'd done it before. How many nights I thought she was running errands, but was actually in some corner of the city, laughing across a table from someone else. I tried to remember the last time we'd been on a date. A real one. The kind with eye contact and conversation. Couldn't. We'd had dinners. We'd watched movies. But nothing like that, nothing with that expression she gave him. I realized then, I wasn't just losing her. I'd already lost her. The worst part? I didn't even know when it happened. Maybe it was gradual. Maybe it was like a slow leak in a tire. Everything looks fine from the outside until one day you're stranded and can't remember when the air first started slipping away. All I knew was whatever we'd had, she wasn't in it anymore. I was still holding on to something she'd already let go of. And in that moment, I didn't feel angry. I just felt hollow. I didn't confront her. Not then. Not the next morning. Not even after seeing the photo of her smiling across from a man I didn't recognize. Smiling like she had nothing to hide. Like she wasn't coming home to someone who still made her coffee every morning. Still folded her laundry. Still asked if she needed anything when he went out. I stayed quiet. That was my choice. It wasn't about fear or denial. It was about control. If she was building a second life in the background of ours, then I needed to know how far it went, how deep the cracks were. So I waited, watched, and when the moment came, I looked. Brooke had an old tablet, one of those slim, first-gen models we used for recipes and reading. She never used it anymore. At least, I didn't think she did. It had been collecting dust on the bookshelf in her office for months. But that week, something made me pick it up. Just curiosity, maybe, or something closer to instinct. I tapped the screen. It lit up. Battery was at 12%. Still connected to our Wi-Fi. No lock screen. I didn't even have to snoop. When it opened, it jumped straight into an active browser window. A chat app one didn't recognize. Not something built in, something downloaded. A blinking cursor. A still open thread. And there it was. Gavin. The name from the bracelet. I stared at it, trying to remember if I'd ever heard her say that name out loud. Not once. Not even in passing. But there it was, in big bold letters at the top of the screen, followed by a wall of messages that made everything else, the silence, the perfume, the photo, feel like the opening act. She wasn't just talking to him. She was with him. Emotionally, physically, completely. The messages weren't graphic. Not vulgar. That almost made it worse. They were tender. Familiar. The kind of words you save for someone who sees the most private version of you. The version you strip down to when you're too tired to pretend. I can still smell your cologne on my sweater. Didn't want to get up this morning. I just wanted to stay in that bed with you. You make me feel seen. I forgot what that felt like. Each message chipped away at something I hadn't realized was still intact. Dignity, maybe, or the thin layer of hope I'd been pretending I didn't have. The photos were tucked between the messages like bookmarks. Candid sh*ts. Most of them taken in our house. One of her sitting on our kitchen counter, wearing a shirt I didn't recognize, one of his, probably. Her legs bare, crossed at the ankles, smiling down at the camera. Another of her curled up on the couch, our couch, with her head against someone's chest. She was laughing. Genuinely laughing. The kind that crinkles your nose. I hadn't seen her laugh like that in months. And there was a selfie. Just her. Holding a glass of wine, eyes warm, skin glowing in the light of our bedroom. My bedroom. That photo nearly broke me. She had been in that room with him. That same bed where we used to stay up talking about everything. Where we'd whispered plans and apologies and midnight jokes. She had brought him into that space. Our space. I kept scrolling. There were messages from weeks ago. Months. I lost track of how far back they went. Some were timestamps from when she told me she was with friends. Others matched perfectly with nights she said she had work or errands. There was one from a night I remembered clearly. A night when she told me she wasn't feeling well, curled up on the far edge of the bed with her back to me. That same night, she sent him, "I wish I was in your arms right now." I stared at that line for a long time. Long enough that the screen dimmed. Long enough that my hands went numb. There were little things, too. Bits of language she never used with me. Inside jokes. Songs they sent each other. A stupid meme about some terrible romantic comedy they both liked. She told him she'd watched it again last week, just to feel close. To him. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, feeling like the air in the room had thickened to the point I couldn't breathe. Everything around me felt foreign. The walls, the rug beneath my feet, the ticking of the clock. The home I'd built no longer felt like mine. Felt borrowed. Occupied. By someone else's love story. And the worst part was how comfortable she looked in it. I thought about all the nights I stayed up waiting for her, all the times I told myself she was just busy, just tired, just burned out. And here she was, building something beautiful, something whole, with someone who wasn't me. I didn't confront her that day. I didn't even close the app. I just left it open, face down on the desk. That evening, she came home carrying takeout. Said she was too tired to cook. Asked if I wanted to watch something. I nodded. She picked a show we'd already seen 3 times. She laughed at all the same parts. I watched her. Not the show. Watched the way she tucked her legs beneath her. The way she scrolled her phone during the slow scenes. The way she leaned against the couch cushion without ever touching me. It was surreal, knowing everything, but acting like nothing had changed. And she had no idea. No idea I'd seen the messages. No idea I'd seen the photos. No idea I'd finally met Gavin. Through her words, her laughter, her body. That night, after she went to bed, I stood in the doorway of our room and watched her sleep. She looked peaceful. Innocent, even. I wanted to shake her awake. I wanted to ask how she could lay there, head on the same pillow, knowing she'd betrayed everything we'd built. But I didn't. I just watched. And then I turned around and started packing. Not my things, hers. I didn't go through everything. Just the essentials. Clothes, chargers, toiletries. The stuff she'd need if she suddenly had to stay somewhere else. I placed them carefully in her suitcase. The same suitcase she'd used for our trip to the mountains last fall. The one where she said, "Let's never forget how this weekend feels." I found the printouts in the morning. I printed the chat log just enough to tell the story. A few photos. Not the worst ones. Just enough. I placed them in a plain envelope. No note. No accusation. Just truth. I set the suitcase by the front door. Left the envelope on the kitchen counter, next to her keys. Then I waited. She came downstairs an hour later, hair messy, still in sleep clothes. She saw the suitcase first. Then the envelope. She didn't pick it up right away. She just stood there, staring at it like it might explode. When she finally opened it, her hands shook. She flipped through the papers slowly. No gasp, no denial, just quiet calculation, like she was already trying to figure out how to explain it away. She looked up at me. I didn't say anything. Neither did she. There were no apologies, no explanations, no tears, just silence. And in that silence, I knew everything I needed to know. She didn't cry. Not when she saw the suitcase, not when she read the messages, not when she realized I knew everything. No yelling, no frantic explanations, just that cold, vacant stare, like she was already processing her next move. I watched her thumb through the photos I had printed, the ones I chose carefully. I didn't go for shock value. No int asterisk Macy. No nudity. Just quiet betrayal. Her on the counter. Her on the couch. Her words, in her own voice, captured in screech asterisk ts. You make me feel like I'm waking up again. I miss your hands. Don't forget to bring the good wine next time. She paused at that one. I don't know why. Maybe it was because it was written the night she told me she was staying late to edit hedge asterisk ts. I stood in the hallway, arms crossed, my back against the wall. I didn't want to be in the same room with her. Not because I was angry, that had burned off already. It was something else. Distance. Detachment. Like she had already left. And this was just her shadow tying up loose ends. She placed the envelope on the counter, flattening it like it was part of a formal transaction. Then she looked at me. Not apologetically. Not lovingly. Just still. You went through my things, she said. Not even a question. Just a flat observation. I gave a small nod. Yeah. She waited like I might elaborate. Like maybe I'd get defensive. Like this was the part where I would apologize too. But I didn't. And? She asked finally. What do you want me to say? I asked. That I'm sorry for finding what you meant to hide? She didn't respond. She just pulled her sweatshirt sleeves over her hands, like she always did when she was cold, and leaned against the counter like it was any normal Saturday morning. You could have just asked me, she said after a moment. I laughed short, bitter. And you would have told me the truth? She glanced down. No response. Just a small exhale through her nose. That was the moment I knew there would be no redemption arc. No heartfelt plea. No last-minute, fall-to-her-knees kind of confession. She'd already moved past it. Or maybe she'd rehearsed this ending so many times in her head that now that it was here, she was just walking through the motions. You can stay at your sister's, I said. Or wherever. I don't care. I just want you out today. Are you kicking me out? She asked, and for the first time her voice faltered. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized how much of her I didn't recognize anymore. No, I'm setting you free. She didn't like that answer. She flinched, just slightly, and then her expression hardened again. Do you want to talk about it? She asked. I shook my head. There's nothing left to talk about. She looked like she might say something else, but instead, she nodded once. She took the suitcase by the handle and rolled it toward the stairs. I heard her footsteps creak softly above me, the drawers opening and closing. No slamming, no crying, just movement, quiet and mechanical. I walked into the living room and sat on the couch. Same place she had sat with him. Same angle, probably. I stared at the muted television. The screen glowed blue in the morning light, reflecting off the glass coffee table. I didn't move. Time passed. I don't know how long. Eventually, she came back downstairs. Dressed now. Clean makeup. Her hair pulled back. Like she was heading to brunch or something. Like it was any other day. She paused by the door, fingers curling around the handle. I'll send you the info for the bank, she said. The shared accounts. Whatever you need. I didn't respond. She turned toward me one last time. Maybe expecting a goodbye. Maybe expecting a fight. Maybe just stalling because she didn't know what to say. I stayed still. I didn't know her any last words. She opened the door. The morning was bright. Birds chirping. The kind of spring morning that's supposed to feel fresh and new. She stepped outside. The screen door clicked shut behind her. I didn't follow her out. Instead, I waited, counted the seconds until I heard her car start. Then silence. I sat there for a long time, listening to nothing. Just the ticking of the wall clock, the hum of the fridge. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry anymore. Just emptied out, like the wind had gone still after a storm. I stood up eventually, walked into the kitchen, picked up the envelope she'd left behind, the one I'd handed her earlier. She hadn't taken it. I opened it, confirming she hadn't added anything. No note, no explanation, just the silence she always fell back on when things got uncomfortable. I dropped it in the trash. Then I changed the locks. I updated the alarm code, changed the passwords to every shared account we had. Bank, streaming services, the shared grocery app, all of it. I logged into our photo cloud and deleted my access to hers, removed her from mine. I went into the closet and pulled the remaining clothes she hadn't taken, packed them tightly into another bag and placed it in the garage. I didn't want anything of hers in the bedroom. Then I stripped the bed, washed everything, even the pillows. Afterward, I sat outside on the patio with a cup of black coffee and stared at the yard. It was quiet, still too early for neighbors to be out. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, the silence didn't feel oppressive. Felt like clarity. That afternoon, I texted her once. "Your things are in the garage. I'll leave the door unlocked until tomorrow. After that, they'll be donated." She didn't reply. Around sunset, I got a call from a friend. Said he saw something on Instagram I might want to know about. I hesitated before opening the app. There it was. A photo of Brooke, taken from a slightly low angle like she was sitting on the floor. The lighting was soft, golden hour glow. Her face was tear-streaked. She was hugging her knees to her chest, wearing a neutral-toned hoodie like some Pinterest ad for grief. The caption? "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself." Black heart. The comment section was a mess of affirmations. "You are so strong. Proud of you for choosing you. This is growth. This is healing." I stared at the screen, stunned. She wasn't grieving what she did. She was rebranding it. She had already rewritten the story, turned herself into the heroine of a breakup she caused, a victim of circumstances she had engineered. She never mentioned me by name. She didn't need to. The implication was there. She was the one who had been broken, and now she was rebuilding. I didn't comment, didn't message. I just took a **T and saved it. Later that night, a stranger commented something that made me pause. "This isn't what your ex deserves. Own what you did." It got a few likes before it disappeared. I noticed that too. The next post was a filtered sunset. Then a quote about forgiveness. Then, 2 days later, a laughing photo of her at brunch with friends. Wine glass in hand. Eyes crinkled in a smile. No mention of me. No mention of Gavin. Just curated pain. Marketable sorrow. The kind that earns likes and sympathy without truth. I turned off my phone and dropped it face down on the table. That night, I slept for 8 hours straight. No dreams. Just sleep.